How many fingers am I holding up? 2. Great. How many fingers am I holding up? 4. Great. How many fingers am I holding up now? 3. Not 2, 3. Because the thumb is also pointing up. So earlier I had it like this. And now I have it like this. So that's like considered like technically 3 fingers. Hello everyone, welcome. If you are new here, hi. My name is Chaida. I'm a Black conservative commentator and writer, and this is my podcast where I discuss relevant issues surrounding people, society, culture, and politics. Today we have an abundance of issues coming at us today because I'm going to be talking about a certain leader from my home state, Maryland. But before we get into that, I'm starting a series. And in this series, we are taking a real look at the Black leaders who have shaped our politics for better or for worse. In this series, we are breaking down the patterns, the policies, the promises. No spin, no guilt, no fear, just facts, receipts, history, and real talk from a Black conservative woman who has lived the results, not just the rhetoric. Why am I doing this? Because I love America. And more importantly, I love my community. And real love means tough love. Real love for your community means asking the tough questions. Real progress requires accountability. And real independence starts when we stop letting political parties think they own our minds and our vote. This new series is called Chaida versus Black Politics. I'm going to be sharing a scripture from James first, and it says here in 19. In case that was the scripture, yeah. All right here in 19, it says, "My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry." Love that. I love a scripture that focuses on being slow to speak and quick to listen. Because oftentimes in politics, you got people who are very reactive. They like to jump at the first issue and give the first thought on something without willing to hear everyone else's point of view. And sometimes you got people who are just stubborn and don't want to give any thought to anyone else or want to listen to anyone else. But if you're someone that loves progress, and if you are watching this, I know you want progress too, then you should consider taking a lesson of being slow to speak and quick to listen, because you'll be surprised what you can gain when you just listen to people. Today, we're going to be talking about Governor Wes Moore. He has such a charming smile. It's too bad behind that charming look, it's just incompetence over incompetence. All right, let's go into his background a little bit. Wes Moore is an Army combat veteran. He served in Afghanistan. Sorry, forgive me, my English is bad. Okay, we're moving on. With the 82nd Airborne Division. He is also a best-selling author. And then shortly after coming back from serving overseas, I guess, he was an investment banker in New York City. He served as the CEO of the New York based organization called the Robin Hood Foundation, which was the largest anti-poverty forces in the nation. Back in Obviously, Wes Moore made history as being the first Black governor of Maryland, my home state, and the third Black governor in nation's history. I don't know who's the first or second, so don't even try to quote me on that. So, Governor Moore, who has a background in not only writing, politics, service, and finances, how is it that he managed to turn a over $5 billion surplus into a $3 billion deficit? How does that happen? Well, when you got a man who doesn't really have what it takes to meet the standards, that the measures that it takes to run a city, a state like Maryland, because Maryland, you got to think, it's a unique state. Not only do we hug, like geographically, we kind of encompass DC, so we get a lot of like political traffic from DC. We also probably a home to a lot of federal workers. So when it comes to the state of Maryland, we're very unique. That means we need to be good on businesses, and we need to be good when it comes to our housing market, because we house probably a lot of people that come from different areas around the country and even the world even. Due to Governor Wes Moore how did he manage to turn down a $5 billion surplus into a -3 deficit? What had to happen in order for that to happen? Well, it has been argued by the Moore administration that the surplus that he inherited from his predecessor, former Governor Larry Hogan, that it was actually just temporary COVID-19 relief money that wasn't really used, and it wasn't really recurring revenue. They also, according to Moore, analysts also warned of a structural deficit that was coming way before he became governor. Moore contends Maryland's economy underperformed from 2017 to 2022. The state's economy grew only -3%, while the only 3%, sorry, not -3%, while the national economy grew 11%. Because of the slower economic growth, he argues revenue growth hasn't kept up with the expanding commitments, especially BRIC programs. Okay, that could be a fair argument. So what does this mean for the Marylanders? Well, this means higher taxes are coming. Although recent reports have come out that the Moore administration isn't looking to increase taxes, but they're going to be calling it fees, because there's nothing more than what Maryland Democrats love to do. If they can't have it, they will tax it. So what does this look like for the Moore administration? Well, obviously, Governor Moore's approval rating isn't doing quite well as it should be expected, especially when he is running a very deep blue state like Maryland. And I think this has to come with what the money that he came in as he was being ushered in as governor. Sometimes, as someone who likes looking at politics, you have to keep in mind that money moves around. Money keeps the world going around. And sometimes when you look at these political leaders and where their interests align, you can obviously tell that the governor that the governor's interest lies somewhere else other than with the people that he claims to serve. For instance, when you look at, I look into his campaign finances and where all the money was coming from. A lot of his campaigns money that came when he was campaigning were largely contributed to from out of state donors. And that's really interesting to me because that means that there were a lot of people outside the state of Maryland who were funding his campaign. That means there were a lot of interest in people getting hooks into the obviously current governor who want to make sure that the governor is following their agenda and not ours. And that right there, my friends, is why we do not always champion leaders just because they represent a certain marginalized group. It's very great that Governor Moore has broke the threshold as becoming the first Black governor for Maryland. But we cannot take that representation and think that that's going to produce us results, because a lot of people thought that as Governor Moore was going to come into office that big things were happening, especially for a man who is a combat veteran, who has a background in being in finances, given that he was working on Wall Street as an investment banker and also dabbled into a little bit of politics. You'd think this would be a man who knew how to serve people, but he doesn't, and that is saying something. There's also an initiative that is going on in Maryland that's called the No More organization. And a lot of critics have called out this organization for being racist because it is attacking Governor Moore. Listen, I just really hate how Democrats always like to use the R word when it comes to any form of accountability or retaliation against them. It's like, come on, it's like 2025 already. Can we just give this a rest? Governor Moore is somebody that doesn't really like to take accountability. Next issue, when it comes to the restructuring of congressional districts in Maryland, the Governor Moore administration is overseeing a committee that is responsible for reconstructing the already very gender-gendered state. So this committee consists of multiple Democrats, maybe two independents and one Republican, and the Republican's from some no-name city that I can't remember because it probably isn't that important, but obviously it's important to him. Obviously service is important, but obviously when it came to his predecessor, Governor Larry Hogan, what Governor Larry Hogan did was he had a committee of 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats, and 3 independents. That way the voices were even, and there were a lot of people had the ability to contribute to the conversation, and they were able to go out in districts across the state of Maryland and talk to people and see and come up with a way that restructure the districts of the state that will give Republicans more voice, because in the state of Maryland we only have 1 Republican in Congress, even though the statistics show that 30% of Marylanders are Republican. That's not a fair voice for Republicans in Maryland. And when in recent news, when the Washington Post, it was brought to Governor Moore's attention when he did an interview with a news reporter, that the Washington Post, an op-ed came up in the Washington Post how calling him out for his lack of efforts when it comes to the gender mentoring rejection gene efforts seem lacking in some way or another. And his response was IDGAF. Yeah, that was the response. And if you don't believe me, go watch the clip yourself. This is a man who does not care about his people. He's over here trying to create himself as position himself as a champion for the people, but doesn't want to do anything for his people. He goes on television trying to promote himself and trying to beef up against President Trump because he has his eyes set on the presidency, not the people. In a few years, Governor Moore is looking forward to becoming president of the United States. And I think, if anything, he should be worried about maintaining his seat as governor, because if he keeps up with this fiasco, he could kiss away the presidency because the people of Maryland would already booted him out of office as governor. So, it's just such a shame that my great state of Maryland, my home state of Maryland, has had to be reduced to such incompetent leadership. I pray for the best for you guys. And if you are from Maryland, give me a shout out to you, and feel free to leave a comment. And if you want to add something to what I've missed during this video, please feel free to add it. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Love you guys always. Back again. Wow, you're amazing. Please be sure to give today's episode a thumbs up and leave a comment. If you are new here, subscribe so you can stay tuned for more episodes. Want to get to know me a little bit more? You should follow me on social media. I provide the links to all my social media platforms in the description of each podcast episode. Did today really resonated with you? Then you'll even love my deeper dives on my Substack. So please be sure to check it out when you can. Always remember, stay rooted in truth, stand firm in grace. And always remember, this is our time, this is our America. Yours truly, have a great one.